How's it going, YouTube? Happy Sunday. It is a sunny Sunday as well here in relatively still early March. And, well, things are as crazy as you might expect depending on where you're at in the world, when you're at in the world, and also what your belief for how things should be is. Choose the correct word to put there. Anyway, this morning, well, actually just a little while ago before I started to get my gumption rustled up and set sail, was browsing the internets as I do. Saw that Elon Musk was having some Twitter beef with a Polish gentleman whose name I will butcher, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I don't want to be disrespectful because I'm sorry, there's no way. It probably has a really clear English cognate. I got nothing for the actual Roman spelling of the Polish name, so apologies in advance. Anyway, this Polish gentleman apparently is a government official, if I've interpreted the tweet correctly. This gentleman was talking about, Starlink and what it does for Ukraine, as well as making a statement that the Polish Defense Ministry is paying like $50 million a year to fund Starlink operations in Ukraine, which, good for Poland. Good on you guys. I mean, if there's any Polish watchers of this video by any chance, hey, I salute you guys for doing what you're doing to help Ukraine. And like habitual line crosser also says, you guys are little European Texas, and we love you for it. Don't change Poland. You guys are awesome. Just keep being awesome. So Elon gets on Twitter and just does his level best to smash the guy. Leads off with, "Be quiet, small man. You pay a tiny fraction of the actual cost. And there is no replacement for Starlink. So if you want to change away, good luck. There is no replacement." That's essentially what was said. Because the Polish fellow was saying, look, if Starlink becomes unreliable, we're going to have to change away from it to keep information flowing to Ukraine. And Elon was like, yeah, no, good luck. Which I don't know enough to make a definitive statement on who is right, who is wrong, and what the situation is or is not. I just don't have enough information, so I'm not even going to try to make any kind of assessment in that regard. What I do want to get to, the point I'm trying to get to in a very roundabout fashion, is that with the direction that President Trump is going in pursuit of a peace deal in Ukraine to end the war in Ukraine, the hard pill that I think all of us are going to have to swallow is that if we want the bloodshed to stop, if we want Ukrainians to stop dying, if we want the poor dumb Russians to stop dying, whatever that deal ends up being that ends the bloodshed, that turns off the meat grinder, at least for now, Russia is not going to be punished nearly as badly as they should be for starting the war in the first place, for initiating the conflict, for beginning the invasion. Russia is not going to suffer anywhere near as much as they should economically, politically, diplomatically. They're just not going to suffer to the degree that they should. That's hard pill number one. Hard pill number two. Ukraine, as part of a deal, almost certainly is going to have to give up some of the conquered territory that Russia has taken. And the map lines will have to be redrawn in such a way that Russia, gains some territory. I don't like that. I want the pre-2014 borders back for Ukraine, because I think that at this point we really should just say, Russia, look, you want this to stop? Give back Crimea. That's what I think should happen. Is it going to happen? Almost certainly not. I say almost certainly not because I don't have a crystal ball. But SecDef Pete Hegseth pretty much said, look, the pre-2014 borders are a pipe dream. We're not going to be aiming to get those borders back. In other words, we're not going to be aiming to recover Crimea for Ukraine. But the crucial element there is he didn't say the pre-2022 borders, the pre-invasion borders. So my interpretation is that the end goal for the U.S. is a restoration of the pre-2022 invasion borders, meaning Russia gives back Donetsk and Luhansk and whatever other territory they've occupied. Ukraine pulls out of whatever territory they're occupying in Russia, and that we just kind of reset back to January of 2022, essentially. I think that would be what the Trump administration would consider to be the very best possible deal. And I think personally, again, based solely on my opinion and not on enough factual information to really make an educated statement, but in my opinion, I think getting back to the January 22 borders would be ideal. That would allow everyone to it would allow Europe, Ukraine, and the U.S. to basically walk away, essentially, the winners of the stalemate, and it would remove any gain Russia might have realized from the conflict. However, the reality is that situation almost certainly will not come to pass. Now, hard pill number three. If we want this conflict to be decided in Ukraine's favor decisively, and I mean decisively, both the EU, as well as whatever NATO members see fit, whether they're EU or not, and the United States are going to have to put boots on the ground in Ukraine, in the conflict zone, and pretty much walk right up to the Russian lines with their flags out. Everyone, has all their identification systems on. They clearly are identifying themselves as NATO, EU, US troops, whatever, and basically say to the Russians, we dare you. We absolutely dare you to shoot. Start something. Just walk up and dare them to start. That is the only way. And then let me backtrack here. And then keep walking forward. It's like either Russia starts World War III by shooting at, US, EU coalition forces, or we just walk them right out of Donetsk and Luhansk and just take it all back just by walking. We basically need to bring the world to the absolute brink, the very cusp, the razor's bleeding edge of full-throated nuclear exchange in order to decide this conflict decisively in Ukraine's favor, meaning retaking all territory illegally annexed by Russia in 2022 and the Crimea Peninsula, correcting the mistake of 2014 where that was allowed to happen in the first place. Those are the three hard pills we have to swallow in this situation, because no matter what the end result of this ends up being, a peaceful resolution is going to be ugly. A conflict-based resolution will be even uglier. That's the long and the short of it. So the question we have to ask ourselves as Americans, what do we want as the people of the United States? The tax-paying citizens, those of us who vote, whatever. What do we want? What are we willing to accept? What cost are we willing to pay? Because so far, again, my surface level appreciation is that we're using our 30 and 40-year-old Cold War relic handoffs, just basically donating them to Ukraine, essentially, along with, some billions in cash and whatnot. But we're basically using Ukraine as a way to dispose of old weapons that we would otherwise have to pay to recycle, dismantle, and dispose of. And disposing of explosives and warheads and war material is not cheap. It's very expensive. It is far cheaper to send it to a combat zone and let it be expended as ammunition, just because that's what it was meant to do. It was meant to be fired at a target. And it's way cheaper to use it in combat than it is to, recycle it the ordinary way. Like breaking it down, disarming it, all that stuff, and just, making it inert so that all the component materials can either be recycled or safely disposed of, or whatever the process is for high explosive war material. That's where it's at. That is absolutely 100% where it's at. At least, again, my surface appreciation. There's a whole lot I don't know, but this is my bird's eye view of the whole thing. That's where I think we're at. We got those 3 hard pills to swallow, and either we swallow those pills, pick the one we like the most, or will dislike the least, more accurately, and just pursue that course of action. Personally, I think the Trump administration is going for the best solution that preserves Ukraine, or as much of Ukraine as possible, punishes Russia to an acceptable degree, meaning no one will be happy, but it's better than nothing, and prevents Russia from fully absorbing Ukraine, while also getting mineral deals signed with Ukraine to begin to recoup our material investment in Ukraine itself. That's where I think the Trump administration is going. Whether or not that ends up being what actually happens, time will tell. I still think we're in the early bluster stages where everyone's just sniping at each other on social media, and that's the top level of what we're all supposed to see, while in some dark rooms somewhere in the Pentagon or the White House or the State Department or in The Hague or in Prague or Switzerland or wherever else, very special teams of people are having very special discussions about what a possible peace deal could actually look like. And then at some point in the next 1 month to 2 years or whatever, we'll see the actual peace deal, and then we'll just, we'll go from there. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think Twitter and social media are cancers. I wish Twitter was gone. I think Elon Musk would have been an automatic candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize if, when he bought Twitter, he had just immediately shut it down and erased it from existence. I think he would have done humanity as a whole a great favor. As I record this video to post on social media for a bunch of people to look at and either agree with me, disagree with me, or flame me in the comments section. It's a cancer, but we all have the tumors. Let's just be real here. We all have the tumors. They're in our blood. They're in our minds. They're in our bodies. They're everywhere. We are infested with this cancer. And there's no getting rid of it unless you just completely dissociate yourself from the modern technological society. That's just the way it is. And, there it is. Anyway, YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate every view I get. Feel free to sound off in the comments your opinions. Please be civil. And I'll see you down the road.